Yo, what's good? My name is Reginald, aka the R-Star, aka Mr. Straight Fire. And when you see me sitting down, you know what's about to come. It means a review. And this is Unabashedly Reggie's reaction review of Eminem's Music to Be Murdered By. So before we start, if you enjoyed this video at any moment, please like it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And if you're new to my channel, well, I do lyrical breakdown of a lot, well, mostly Eminem songs, but I did other artists like Royce, Joyner, and Kendrick Lamar. And if you want to skip through a specific part of this review, go in the description and you'll find links as well, links to my social media. And if you want to support this channel, you can check out my merch store on teespring.com. But the best way is to go on patreon.com/unabashedlyreggie. For just $1 a month, you get to see the full rhyme sheet when I break down a video. And sometimes there's even an extended version of the video, so you can get that as well. But now, on to the new album by Eminem. Music to Be Murdered By was released on January 17th, 2020. It is Eminem's 11th studio album. 11th already. Sounds asinine, yeah, I know. Just like Kamikaze, this album was shadow dropped at midnight with no prior announcement. Personally, I woke up and the first thing I saw was a YouTube notification for the Darkness video. By the way, you should hit the bell on my channel so you get notified when I release a new video, just like I did. Anyways, I first thought a new Eminem song, nice, but then I go on social media and I realized it was a whole album. I was like, damn, that was way too much to handle on a Friday morning. But let's go back to the album. The album's title and the cover is an homage to Alfred Hitchcock's instrumental album of the same name called Alfred Hitchcock Presents Music to Be Murdered By. It was released on 1958. That album is an orchestra music composed by Jeff Alexander. Throughout the album, you hear Hitchcock talk here and there. Those same sections of Hitchcock are reused by M throughout the album as well. So it's two albums in a row where the cover is an homage, because Kamikaze was an homage to the Beastie Boys' License to Ill. Now, what I find interesting is that once again, just like on Kamikaze, Eminem is credited as Slim Shady. So when you see this, you know he'll say some lyrics that's dead wrong. Before going more into the album, let's talk about album sales. Although Halsey's album Manic had more traditional album sales, 173 versus Eminem's 121,000, Eminem still made it to the top of the Billboard. Since album charts are now based on multi-metric consumption, which includes pure album sales, track equivalent albums, and streaming equivalent albums. When we take all that into account, he sold 279,000 units. For comparison, Kamikaze did 434,000 in its first week, but this album had more competition, with Halsey and Mac Miller, rest in peace, dropping on the same day. But by being number one, that gave Eminem his 10th consecutive number one album, which ironically ties him now with Elvis Presley. Plus, Eminem also topped the UK chart. Let's talk about the production of this album. Guess who's back, 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 back again. Dre is back. Although he was the executive producer on Kamikaze, he didn't have an actual production credit. But now, after being MIA since Recovery, Dre and his team is back on a solo Eminem album once again. Dre's team is made of Dewan Parker, who worked a lot on Relapse, Lawrence Jr., a drummer, Them Joints, and Eric Griggs. They have 4 credits: Premonition, Never Love Again, Little Engine, and Lock It Up. Another producer with multiple credits is D.A. Doman. D.A. got that dope? That's his name tag. He produced Those Kind of Nights, Godzilla, and No Regrets. This album has a couple of firsts. Skylar Grey, who provided a lot of hooks for Eminem, now has produced a beat for him for the first time. That will be Leaving Heaven. Another first is Royce Herning production credits for the first time in his career with You Gon' Learn and Darkness. So not only did he deliver rap-wise, he also contributed on the production side. You the real MVP. And shout out to Alchemist for his help on Stepdad as well. Plus, Eminem along with Luis Resto have a couple of credits as well, and Eminem gets producer credits on almost every song. Man, I love seeing him be involved in the production side like that, because every time he does little adjustment to fit his style, and it makes everything so perfect. In my mind, production-wise, this is the best production since Recovery. There's a lot of different styles, but it's mixed properly so it all feels part of the same album. It's something that was missing a little from Kamikaze and Revival. You see, usually when a beat isn't great, M will save it with his rap, but here the production is so great that even when I don't really feel M's performance as much, the beat elevates his performance. So that says a lot about the beat choices. This album's beats feel current. They have elements of what's trending right now, which isn't a bad thing at all. He's adapting to the type of beats that are popular, but gives his own twist, like by adding that epic change up at the end of verses or during. Something we saw a lot on the Eminem show and in my mind was missing in his past albums. That kind of change up takes a verse to a whole nother level level, like Sing for the Moment. His last verse hits you right here, not just because of what he says, which is amazing, but the beat change up with the piano, man, that's what I like when beat changes and become more epic. And a track like Marsh sounds like an Eminem track, but also feels like it fits the time with that heavy 808 kick. True artists learn to adapt. They treat music like Levi's. When they ain't buttoned up right, they adjust on the fly. My favorite beat is Premonition, but there are so many other good instrumentals like Marsh, Never Love Again, Into Deep, You Gon' Learn. So the production, moi, give the chef's kiss. When it comes to the features, this has to be the Eminem album with the most features, definitely on the rapping features. Seeing M on a track with Black Thought is surely a dream collab for many hip-hop fans. All the rappers' features are well-established, respected MCs, except for Young M.A, who's part of the new school. If you remember The Ringer, M gave her a nod when he sampled that ooh from her song. So when he did that on The Ringer, that told me that he had a lot of respect for her, so I'm not surprised to see her on an Eminem album, and quite frankly, she did her thing. I feel that with this new album, Eminem wanted to show that new artists are not all bad and he's not just an old man rambling. I get that from the Young M.A feature, the Don Toliver hook, and the Juice WRLD hook as well. Rest in peace, Juice WRLD. It's sad that he didn't live to see the day he was featured on an Eminem song. I don't know if you've ever seen his freestyle on the Tim Westwood radio show where he spent about an hour on just Eminem beats. This song is actually his first posthumous release. All in all, cool to see Eminem embrace some of the new school. In terms of themes and content, it's very similar to what we're used to. Personal stories, love stories, and straight up tearing up the mic up. When it comes to the personal side, we have another closure in the Eminem story. That's with his dad on leaving heaven. For the past few albums, he's been creating some closure in his life story through the music. You had Headlights with his mom, Bad Husband with Kim, Stepping Stone with D12, and now Leaving Heaven with his dad. Although he's no longer with Kim, his albums still have relationship songs, but now there are mostly fictitious scenarios. But I like that on Never Love Again, it's only as the song progresses that you realize it's about his drug addiction. Now I like that this album kind of has a concept with the Alfred Hitchcock thing, but I feel he didn't go deep enough with the concept. Murdered by lyrically, but it needed one serial killer story, something like Frame, but with a better and more crafty and creative story. If you remove the skits and change the cover, it doesn't really affect how the album is sequenced. The interlude before Those Kind of Nights felt out of place. But I get it, it's a lyrical murder, and as listeners we're the victims as we get killed by the quality of his music, so it doesn't matter what songs comes next. Still, he could have gone more into the concept. Although there are some disses on this album, the difference with Kamikaze and this one is that here, it's a less angry Eminem. On Kamikaze it was like, yo, you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it. But on this album it's more like him looking back at Kamikaze like, yeah, you got, but I'm not gonna spend any more energy on it. Honestly, I'm exhausted. Overall, M's being very creative with his storytelling on this album with Never Love Again, Stepdad, and of course, Darkness. Plus, you can even include Into Deep into that. One thing I want to highlight, notice how this album has 17 songs, but it's just around an hour. There are 10 songs around the 3-minute 30 mark or even below, including 4 under 3 minutes. That's Eminem adjusting to the reality of the streaming world. Nowadays, songs are much shorter so they can get more streams, that way artists get more sales. When you look at little things like that, the production, the features, and the hooks, you can tell that Eminem really wants to adjust to the modern times and not be looked as an outdated artist. Well, he's not the first king of controversy, but what would an Eminem album release be without some of it? Darkness, the first single of the album, makes a statement about being pro-gun control and hoping that gun laws change in America. The track, which is amazing, sees Eminem speaking from the perspective of the Las Vegas shooter, the deadliest shooting in US history. Remember, M also mentioned him in Greatest on Kamikaze. Although this track is being praised, of course, you have all the people that are pro-guns that are attacking Eminem and calling him hypocrite because of the content of his music. On Unaccommodating, Eminem mentions the 2017 Manchester bombing at an Ariana Grande concert which killed 22 people. For that, he received a lot of backlash from the Manchester mayor to some band's frontman to Ariana Grande's fans to the parents of the victims, which I definitely understand them. But here's the thing though, when it happened, Eminem tweeted and asked for donation to be made to the Red Cross and reportedly raised $2 million. Now, what people will say is, oh, he's such a hypocrite, or he's 47 years old, he needs to grow up. Here's what I have to say about those two things. When he writes lines like that, he's trying to show us our hypocrisy as a society, because on one hand, we're offended when he talks about things like that happen, but on the other, we're not doing anything to try to make it stop. And oh, he needs to grow up. The album credits him as Slim Shady. That's a character. He's in character. It's entertainment. Characters don't grow. Cartman has been a 10-year-old boy for over 20 years. I'm sure you've laughed at a joke that was about a tragedy in a show like South Park or Family Guy, but that doesn't mean that you don't care about real issues. And actually, Eminem had a response on his Instagram defending the album. He said that it's not for the squeamish and that it was designed to shock the conscience, which may cause positive action. It goes back to what I was saying. If you're shocked, then you should do more to make sure there's less violence in the world. And you know, you shouldn't take lyrics so serious. It might be confusing. You just gotta try to separate the truth from entertainment. That's all. So I've talked about the cover, the production, sales, themes of the album, controversy, but how do I actually feel about the album? Because I know that's what you want to know. So here it is. The way this album starts got me so hyped. Premonition, the beat by Dr. Dre, the energy Eminem had, his delivery. It was dope, but I feel that the album never captured that same hype, that same feel for me. But hold on a second, I still like the album. But my point is, in this album, there's just not enough highs like there were in Kamikaze. In Kamikaze, you had Stepping Stones that to me that was such a high, like it really got me. And even Revival had more moments that gave me chills and highs like Believe, Castle, and A Rose. It's really just the intro that made me feel that way. Darkness is amazing, but since it's not personal, it didn't actually give me chills. I feel that moment could have been in Leaving Heaven's last verse, but he took that high-pitched, kind of not so serious, childish flow, so it didn't hit me as it should have. Like, man, that song is about the one person you've resented your whole life, so I wanted more seriousness because that would have gotten me, and that would have been a really high point in the album when it comes to emotions. I mean, he said it himself, my songs can make you cry, take you by surprise at the same time, but this album missed on that in my opinion. It never hit me on an emotional level. But overall, this album was pretty dope. Lyrics wise, you know Eminem will have some fire lines. He delivered for sure, but there are some lines that are corny, but some of them are on purpose because they're meant to be catchy. Like that, even Drano. You can say what you want about that line, but every time it'll come up, guess what? You'll be singing along. Again, that's M learning and applying what works in the game today. Drake is one of the best at that. To have a line that's kind of corny, but it'll stay stuck in your head for days and days. And for real, I feel like people are way harder on Eminem's similes and metaphors than any other artist. I can probably list a bunch of Lil Wayne's lines or J. Cole lines or other respected artists that are corny, but they don't get scrutinized like M does. One line that I actually really liked, and it seems a lot of people hated, was, I'm talking euthanasia like kids in Taiwan. Here's why I think it's a dope line. It's how he broke down euthanasia into youth in Asia. Did you really ever heard that word euthanasia and thought about euthanasia? So that shows how great he is at just breaking down words. And the rhyme schemes that he used, he almost had it throughout the whole songs. Dick and my mom, did to my dog, kids in Taiwan, plus euthanasia was already talked about previously in the song, so it's all fit. So to be able to make a simile like that, keep the rhyming scheme, it's pretty dope. Plus after that he said shit's like Saigon, continuing with the Asia theme because that's a city in Vietnam. And it fits the rhyming scheme. And right after so many battery charged, this dude's like lithium ion. Again, like all that, to put all that together is just incredible. Plus, in Taiwan, euthanasia is actually a political issue today. So I don't see how you can say that line is weak. There's so much to that line that people don't realize. I feel M doesn't get treated fairly when it comes to wordplays. For example, one of Biggie's lines that is the most famous is, your reign on top was short like leprechaun. I am sure if Eminem said that line today, people would shit on it. And that line by Biggie is a dope line, so is euthanasia like kids in Taiwan. This album to me is Revival 2. It's the base of Revival, but he took everything that worked on Kamikaze. On Kamikaze, what worked was the bars, the disses, the aggression. And he fixed everything that did not work on Revival, like having all those pop hooks on it. But instead of having pop hooks, pop singers, female singers, or having ambassadors, he actually took today's rappers to be on the hook. It actually gives a more hip-hop feel. On Revival, people complain about the wokeness, although there's really just 2 songs on that album. So what he did, he toned down the political thing and only had 1 song, and he made sure that that song was a dope song with a dope concept. So even if you're like, oh my god, Eminem's being woke, he's talking about gun control, you have to respect the craftiness, the creativity of that song. I'm talking about Darkness. What else did people not like on Revival were all the actual love songs or the song recording women. You know, for example, Remind Me or Heat, like that rock thing. No offense to Rick Rubin, but I'm so happy that Dre is back and Rick is gone. So he took that out and instead had doper beats, things that felt more current, that felt more hip hop, and songs like Into Deep or Never Love Again. So he did again a love song, but there was a concept. Farewell, he took a sample, like a dancehall sample, and made it work. That's why when you look at all that, this album is a better version of Revival. It's Revival Part 2. The reason why I'm not saying it's Kamikaze Part 2, because Kamikaze, it didn't really feel like an actual album, but just songs and songs and songs. But this actually feels like an album, so that's why it's more Revival than Kamikaze. So my favorite beats on this album, there's so many, but the one that really hit me, I've said it before, was Premonition. But Marsh, Never Love Again, Into Deep, they are dope. But there's just so many to mention. You Gonna Learn also is a dope beat. What else is a dope beat? Farewell is a dope beat. The production on this album is incredible. Overall, the hooks on this album are pretty good, but my favorite hooks that are made by Eminem are Into Deep and I Will. It's so old school with that high pitch, deep and normal voice all layered, and Darkness also is pretty dope, even if it's very simple. Now I know you're probably wondering, oh, what do you think is the best verse? What do you think is the best line? Well, for the best line, it's like I can't really say right now because it's when I'm gonna break it down. I'm probably gonna find out lines that I didn't even hear even after a week. But right now, one of the lines that I really love is, if you're still looking for smoke, I already gave you an L. I'd rather just see you an L, but I should get puffed on a joint. That line is so dope, but then he explained it, so it kind of made the line a little lesser, but if he did not explain it, I think it would have been amazing. It's still an amazing line, and I also like on I Will, I Need a Visor because you're just suns in my eyes. Now my favorite verse, it's really hard to say. There's so many good verses on this album, but my favorite, not necessarily the best, but Premonition is one of my favorite because of the delivery, mostly. Although lyrically, there's a couple great lines there, but it's not necessarily punchlines, but it's the emotion, it's what he has to say on it. I think a song that has one of the best verses overall is Unaccommodating, but I Will's verse is dope. You Gonna Learn, you have dope verse. On Godzilla, you have dope verse. So to pick one, I mean, or even pick the best 5, I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll make the best verses, the best lines after a couple months. Right now, even if it's been a week, more than a week, I can't even say what's my favorite what's my top 5 songs because there's so many great songs. But the one that I like the most is Premonition, again, just because of how it would make me feel. But Darkness is dope. I Will, Into Deep, Marsh, Godzilla. Although I name a couple, there are still other songs that I really like Farewell. I really like that song because it's so different than what he usually does. One thing I can say is my least favorite song, the one song that's gonna get the least amount of plays from me, is Little Engine. Now I know some people said, oh, asked me to do a breakdown about it, but first of all, I don't like the instrumental and I don't like Rambling Eminem. To me, it felt like rambling, and the hook, it's nah. Little Engine, nah, not for me, dog. And the other song that I'm probably gonna skip is Those Kind of Nights. Now, I like Head Sheeran, I like the hook, but that song, it kind of reminds me a little of Encore. Now, my closing thoughts on this album. This album to me is Eminem finally understanding his identity, finally understanding what kind of music not only he's able to make, but the kind of music he has to make so fans can enjoy it and he can enjoy it himself. M knows that he's gotta spit. That's what people are expecting from him. He's gotta really be about rapping, having great bars, great lines, dope verses. Although I don't really like the rippity rapping when he just raps a lot really fast, he knows, and I know, there's a lot of the fan base that enjoys this, so there's always, on every album from now on, there will always be a very fast part that will be just like on Godzilla. And one thing we can expect on his album from now on is to have some kind of catchy radio music. Now, you might hate that, but the reality is that the true measure of success as an artist is being able to be on the radio. Because if you look at all the greats of all time, Jay-Z lyrically, dope. And also, guess what? He was on the radio. Biggie, Tupac, same thing, Nas as well. So for him, it's a challenge to be on the radio, but also still be lyrical. There will always be a song like Those Kind of Nights. There's always gonna be a song with a hook with a new artist like Juice WRLD, again, R.I.P. So on the next album, there will be a couple artists that will be part of the new waves because that's how you're able to stay current. And this album is more catchy. Hooks like No Regrets, Into Deep, Darkness. So that's what we can expect now on. And in my opinion, if you didn't like Revival or Kamikaze, you're not gonna like this album. If you didn't like Revival but like Kamikaze, you should probably like this one. And he also understands that people love to hear about his love life, but although now he's not as public as he was because, well, we actually don't even know who's dating, so you can expect him to do songs that are gonna be fictional, like Into Deep, but there's always gonna be that kind of presence, that kind of song on his album, and he's pretty good at it. But this Eminem still has the same issues in my mind when it comes to pacing. Although a lot of people like the fast, rippity rap stuff, I think that he should slow down way more often, like on a song like Into Deep. Like, I really love that song because it's nice to hear him just rap and not just be all the time going 100 miles an hour. But I've made my peace with that because I understand that this new Eminem, this version of Eminem for the past few years, he's a different artist. Literally, like he said, he's not gonna be able to top what my name is. I have to understand that I can't expect him anymore to do the same thing he used to do because it's just not the same artist, but that doesn't mean the music isn't dope. So I think the next album probably won't be better, probably won't be worse, but now I have my expectations set at the right place. I know what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get a couple personal songs, a couple love story songs. I'm gonna get a couple of songs where he's just rapping really fast, but a couple of songs where he's just killing the beat without going extremely fast. I understand it now. I know what to expect. And I would say that this album is his best since Recovery. It's hard to say which one is better, but lyrically, bars for bars, this one is way better. So, I give it an 8.5 out of 10, which means really great. If I gave Kamikaze an 8, this deserves more. It feels like an actual album. Still issues with the rapping, but that's the artist he is today, like I just said, so we have to look at it for the music itself and not what we expect. But once the initial disappointment is gone, I'm able to look at it for music and not for what I've been wanting from Eminem for the past 18 years. So when you just look at it and not just compare it to what he used to be doing, when you compare it to what we have today, the music production, the beat production, the rapping, the hooks, this album is really great and it's better than most of the music that we hear today. And because I'm better prepared, my expectations are set at the right place, I'm really looking forward to all his future projects. So now that I gave you my impression about the album, I gave it a grade, I will talk about each song. So it's kind of a mini breakdown, so I'll give you my favorite lines or lines that caught my ear or what I thought about each song. So let's go. Premonition, the intro produced by The One Parker and Dr. Dre. Well, I said it many times, it's my favorite track. And I like the line, I'm coming after you like the letter V. It might look like a basic line, but the rhyming and the build-up, because before you had longevity, level we never be ahead of me alphabetically. So the build-up to that line, I loved it a lot. And like I said, it's my favorite instrumental. The reason why I like that song so much is because I know I've said that I have to understand that he's a different artist and I can't always expect what he used to be doing before. But the way he sounds on it, he sounds like the old Eminem. And even when he says, twice as good as you'll ever be, the way that sounds, that pronunciation, that's classic Eminem. So when I heard that, it gave me chills because I'm like, oh my God, that's Eminem. Unaccommodating, produced by Tim Subi and featuring Young M.A. Young M.A., I think she did her thing on that track. She's nothing very special lyrically, but the way she was writing the beat, I feel that beat really fitted her very well. So I really enjoyed the part, and I'm not gonna skip that part because I actually enjoyed it. This track has some of the best verses by Eminem on this whole album, and it's a part of that flow that actually felt like 2003 era because he had a flow that's similar to that Invasion mixtape intro. Here it is.
I don't know what it is or what it could be, but I get a woody when these pussies try to push me, thinking they gon' put me in a position to pickle me. Y'all tickle me pink, I think I just rather have pink.
So you see how similar it is? And a line that I really like was watching my pupil get cornea. I think the way he brought it up was pretty dope. Plus, they call me Kamikaze, it's plain suicide. Also, that was dope. And the beat change up, I liked everything about that track. And the toot, that's kind of a shout out to Kendrick too. I love it. You Gon' Learn, produced by Eminem, Louis Resto, and Royce the 5'9". And I like Royce here. I like what he did. He didn't really go for just bars and bars and bars and just rapping. I mean, he did have a great verse, but he also talked about social issues, and I love that. And the flow he used was similar to Not Alike, but I feel it was more on beat than on Not Alike. And if I talk about Eminem, again, because of that beat change up, it adds so much to the verse. And I just love how he rapped on it, and I don't know if it's because of how he rapped, because of how the beat changed, but it was cool, it was dope. And I don't know if you call it that T Grizzly diss. Well, I think definitely a shot at him when Eminem said, I'm too volatile and too grizzly to bear. Then he talks about what's the point of dissing someone who doesn't know where the word should land on the kick and the snare. And T Grizzly's flow is kind of offbeat. And I like how when he said the kick and the snare, the word snare actually landed on the kick, and I'm pretty sure he did it on purpose as an oxymoron. Next up, Those Kinda Nights, produced by Fred and D.A. Doman. Now, I said it before, that song is one of my least favorite tracks on the album, but I get it, it's for the radio. It has that shake that vibe, and it kind of gives me this weird encore and my band vibe, you know, that era when Eminem was at its lowest. Plus, when he does that girl voice, kind of like in My Band. Beck, you're my fucking god, it's Eminem. But one thing I like about that track is the Owire-related wordplays and the shout out to the D12 members, plus Bizarre in the intro. So it's nice to see that after Stepping Stones, we have some D12 in there. And if you've seen a lot of my videos, you know that I love Ed Sheeran. I think he's an incredible writer, and I don't get some of the hate people give him because People say, oh, that's someone you would diss back in the days, but that is so not true, because here's why. Ed Sheeran is a student of the game of hip-hop. I don't know if you've seen interviews, but the way he talks about hip-hop, you can tell that he knows about it and he can spit some Biggie. And the hip-hop culture actually has embraced him, because when you look at the album he did, well, he had Stormzy, of course, from the UK, but he also had Meek Mill, so a lot of people respect him in the game. So please stop with the Ed Sheeran 8, and quite frankly, I think he's one of the best part of the song. Into Deep, produced by Tim Subi. The production on this is so good. The beat is so smooth, and I really love the hook. It's very melodic. The production on this is so good. It's so smooth. I really love the hook. It's one of my favorites on this album. It's so very melodic. Eminem really did a good job on it. And the whole track, the beat, it kind of sounds like some old Kanye, something I would have seen on his early album, or something produced by No ID, one of his very good friend and producer. And even the Long John Silver line, "Cause we sell fish," it sounds like a Kanye line, and even the same flow. On paper, that track shouldn't be this good, but it's dope. And it's a continuation, sort of River, because it has that cheating theme. And it's probably, in my mind, it's one of Eminem's best love/relationship song that is not Kim related. Next up, Godzilla, produced by D.A. Doman. Now, it's not my type of beat, but the rapping made me like it, and it's one of my favorite. Eminem's flow on it is very dope, and the beat change up once again is incredible. The hook is so catchy. Juice WRLD, I mean, did a really good job on it. Now, the speed part, I mean, you already know what I think. That speed part, I didn't really enjoy it, but it was good to a point. When the beat was changing, getting more epic, was actually dope. But then when he went for his personal record, that's when it became nonsense to me. And at the end, the word he's using are just adjective with the able, so it's not very complex rhyming. And I feel parts like this is to have a fast part when he does songs live, because it gets the crowd hype. But he does acknowledge the nonsense with the "look what I'm planning," so I think he's just joking. It was a funny ending. And about that fast part, he actually beat His Majesty record, which was 10.3 syllable a second, with now 10.65 syllables a second. There are a lot of good lines in that track, but one that I really liked was, "My lyrics never sit well, so they want to give me the chair." And as a wrestling fan, I love the Bobby Heenan and WrestleMania reference. Darkness, produced by Eminem, Louis Presto, and Royce da 5'9". Now, what I like, a nice little touch, is the fact that the song previously was saying, "I'm a monster," and now we're talking about an actual monster. The writing on that track is incredible. I think when it comes to writing, this is the closest he's ever been to Stan. I don't think the execution is as good, but what he did by doing this parallel with the shooter, talking from the perspective of the shooter and also talking from the perspective of Eminem when he was at his worst period, because what the things he's talking about in his room, it reminds me of When I'm Gone, you know, when he's talking about being in his room about to kill a show. So when you first hear it, you think he's talking about that, but then he's actually talking about the Las Vegas shooter. One thing I will say, though, is the video kind of spoiled it, because I saw the video before hearing the song without the video, so I knew that it was about the Las Vegas shooter. But one thing in that song, there's only one misstep. It's a dope song, but one thing that actually was really not great, really bad actually, when he says, "That's a lot of shots, huh?" And then in the back he says, "double entendre." Like, every time he explains the lines, I think it ruins it, like that "inhale puffy joint" line. And I don't understand when he does wordplays that we can actually get if we think about it. He'll try to explain it, but when he does something like "lost eunuch," he doesn't try to explain it, and that is so much harder to get. I don't know, he shouldn't have said that. Fuck that ad-lib. Leaving Heaven, produced by Skylar Grey and also featuring Skylar Grey. Now, I love Skylar, but I just feel that now it's no longer special when she's on a track, because everything kind of feels the same, it's the same vibe every time. So I wish you would go with a Jessie Reyez or any other female singer that we're not familiar with, so it gives another color, well, I'm not talking about skin color, but another vibe, another tone. Given the content of that song, given what it's about, the fact that it's about his dad, I think it should have been one of the best songs on the album, but there's a lot of things there I feel he missed. First of all, the fast part at the end of the second verse, I think was totally unnecessary. Again, like I've said, Eminem has issues when it comes to pacing. I just feel like he needs to always rap and show that he rap. Like, we know, Marshall, you're one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, so you can just take it down a notch sometimes, so that way we get more emotion. And I wish he had a more serious tone when he talked about his dad, but maybe that was his way of actually giving half a shit. Overall, it's a really good song. Every time Eminem gets personal, it's always dope. And I knew that song was coming. If you've watched some of my videos, I actually predicted that, because I knew there was going to be some closure about his dad. Now, I'm wondering if we'll ever see a song about Ronnie. Ya Ya, produced by Mr. Porter, featuring Royce da 5'9", Black Thoughts from Roots, and Q-Tip on the hook. I don't know how to feel about the instrumental, about the beat, but I love all the Wu-Tang shoutouts in this track and actually in this whole album because the shout out on Lock It Up and on I Will. It's hard to say who had the best verse, but I just love seeing legends like that on a track. And what Eminem did, it was a tribute to the game with all the name drop. He felt that it was important for him to pay tribute to the game. Black Thoughts, I feel, is so underrated, but that was a dope verse, like dope rhyming scheme. I love it. And the MGK shot was actually funny. Another thing that I chuckled at was I just adapt to the climate. I treat it like my Levi's. When they ain't buttoned up right, I adjust on the fly. And when M said, when I'm on the mic, I'ma stand out like a lime green wife beater with a knife out, that reminds me of the role model line, because I'ma stand out like a green hat with an orange bill. I think that's a reference to that. Stepdad, produced by Eminem, Louis Resto, and Alchemist. As soon as the beat started, I knew that was the Eminem produced track because it has that Eminem vibe. Now the hook is a little weird, it's kind of annoying, but in a weird way I like it because it stayed in my head, and also it's kind of classic Eminem hook. Although Eminem did have a lot of stepdads, and I think I've heard him or actually read things about him having issues with his stepdad, this is actually fictional, but I think it's inspired by true events. Now, some people might not understand why he did a song like that about his stepdad. I think the purpose of that song is because Eminem understands that he has a lot of young kids as fans and young teenagers, and he wanted to make a song that they can relate to because this is a reality that people will go through. And like he said on No Regrets, you want to make a song people can feel, like a song like A Rose. This song, I really like the song. I love the rapping again. I love when Eminem, he's just rapping. He's not trying to super rap. I love the way he built up the song, you know, issues with the dad, and he talks more about it at the end. He kills his dad, his stepdad. I love that, and I love his rapping there. I love his delivery, and you already know what I think about the euthanasia line. March, produced by Eminem and Louis Resto. This is one of the best tracks on the whole album. It feels like an Eminem track, but also feels current. But I wish he didn't explain that Puff line like I've said before. One thing that I love is when he said, I'm a stand-up red man. We know that already because of Till I Collapse, but I like that Eminem is actually using the word stand, which actually got in the dictionary a couple years ago. The flow on this track is so dope. This track really is Eminem kind of taking the style of today, but adding his Eminem touch. The flow is dope, and I love when he said, I can make it really difficult for motherfuckers to come to Detroit. The way he said that, so Never Love Again, produced by Dr. Dre and all his other producers. This is a dope song, a cool concept. It's one of my favorite actual beat on the album. It's also one of my favorite songs. I know that the concept of talking about drug like it's a woman, it's been done before, but knowing Eminem history as a fan, this hits you harder than other artists. When I heard it, I was surprised to see it's produced by Dr. Dre because it's very different than the type of beat that he usually does, except when the beat changes, which also is so great. Like, the whole album's production is so dope, and I mean, the concept is great too. Again, just like Darkness, the way he progresses, you start realizing that it's not about an actual woman, and I love how he ends it with flushing the pills in the toilet, something he's done in other songs like on A Rose. Engine, produced again by Dr. Dre's team. Now, I've said it before, I don't really like that song. It's the worst song on the album, in my opinion. I don't like rambling Eminem. It's a weird Dre beat. It sounds like something that would have been on Encore, but with just a little better mixing. I don't like the flow. I don't like the hook. I don't like anything about that song, really. Lock It Up, produced by Dr. Dre's team, featuring Armed to the Teeth, Anderson .Paak. The beat is so smooth. Jeez, that's why we need Dre and his team on Eminem's albums. That hook is so dope. Plus, I like how it really fits Eminem, where he almost lost it with Revival's negative reception. Then people thought he was done, but came back like a boomerang on him. And I love the little shot he threw at Joe Budden, which it was actually really clever. That line when he said, trying to save at Kroger, so why would I give a fuck about backstabbing Trader Joe for? That was dope. But to be fair to Joe Budden, I don't know if you saw his reaction, but he actually gave a lot of props to the album, so he's not bitter. Farewell, produced by Ricky Rax. Now, if you told me I would love an Eminem track that sampled the dancehall No Game song by Serrani, I wouldn't believe you, but I love that track. I don't know how many times I actually said that about songs on this album, but I really love that track. The vibe, the bounciness to this track, it's so dope. It's impossible not to bump your head when you listen to this, and that's gonna be a great summer song. It has that feel. It's an incredible song. Now, I don't know if this song is about Kim or drugs. If it's about drugs, then it's Stu Samey with Never Love Again. He says, since 06 you flipped my fucking life. That's when M was hardcore on drugs and Proof died that year too. And he's known Kim since the late 80s, so it can't really about her. Then he says, I'll go to bat and defend her honor, so it can't be drugs, it could be her. I really think he does it on purpose on that track, so we don't know what he's talking about. He wants to blur the lines between Kim and drugs, his two biggest loves. Well, excluding Haley. No Regrets, produced by D.A. Doman. Another dope song. I feel this song is actually kind of a sequel to Fall because he addresses things from Fall and it kind of has the same vibe, and also there's someone singing on the hook. Similar way, not exactly, but to me it felt like that. And I love the line, they want front row seats, I give him nosebleeds, because quite frankly he's been out of the public eye for the past I don't know how many years when he's not actually releasing an album. He doesn't give a lot of interviews. For example, we don't even know who's dating, so I felt that, oh man, yeah, that's clever and it actually fits his life really well. Now of course, one of my favorite lines on this track is when he said, so some targets will get a kill shot, some I just barely nicked them. I just think it's incredible the fact that, well, he released Lower Above in December, so I wonder if that track was actually recorded after it or if he knew the impact was gonna have. And the final track, I Will, produced by Eminem and Luis Resto. One of my favorite tracks on the album, straight. First of all, it feels like an Eminem beat. Well, it's produced by Eminem, but it's rappers, dope rappers on it, just killing it, and Eminem also killing it at the end. I love the Wu-Tang shout out, because if you don't know, I grew up on Wu-Tang, so to hear Eminem actually shout Wu-Tang, that's pretty dope. There are a lot of dope lines on that track, of course, because of who's on the track. Slaughterhouse is one of the dopest rap group we've ever had. The line that I like from Royce is when he says, I'm lyrically James Todd, Tariq Trotter, minus the cap. James Todd, LL Cool J, Tariq Trotter, that's Black Thought, and both of them like to wear hats, and minus the cap is a play on the expression no cap, meaning no lie. So yeah, he's one of the dopest, but no lie, but it goes with the fact that those two rappers always wear hats. That was very dope. A line that I like from Crooked I, John Wilkes, that's who I'm in the booth like, Abra, I go ham for dead presidents. That was dope. And Street Fighter 2 being one of my favorite games of all time, I love when he said, more shocking than it pissed off Blanca. If you've played Street Fighter, you know what that means. But I think who had one of the best lines on the whole track is Joel Ortiz when he said, oh, your boss on par like good golfers, but I put a hole in one of your birdies with this eagle and launch it. Joel Ortiz is so underrated. He is so clever, so dope. Great line. So that's it, folks. That was my reaction, review, mini breakdown of Eminem's new album, Music to Be Murdered By. I know you've waited a long time for it, but not only I was busy a little, but I wanted to take my time to really tell you how I felt about the album, because after a week and a couple days, the way I feel about this album, I like it way more. And every time I was not listening to the album, I was like, man, I want to listen to that song or that song or that song. So that's why it was so hard for me to pick my favorite songs, because there are so many great songs on it. Now, as far as my next breakdown, my next video, let me know in the comments below which one you like. I'll probably put a poll on my channel as well. Right now, I'm hesitating between Darkness and Unaccommodating. And I know you're all screaming for Godzilla, but it's a very long track, a lot of words, a lot of lines, so I'm probably not gonna do that as right now. But until my breakdown, until my next video, this has been, I'm Ashley Reggie. Thanks, it's been real.